Good evening. Let me get set up. Let's see here. Okay. All right. I think this week is a little bit better. Last week we had a hard time getting both on, but I think this week we're good. I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for a couple people to get here. Thank you guys. Okay. All right. So if I'm on here, it must be Monday at 7 o'clock as I do my NGW lives. So welcome everybody, and let a couple people get in, and then we're going to start the topic. This is a topic that I talk about a lot. If any of my patients are on, they know I talk about this a lot. So I'm going to try to be brief, but you're going to hear my take on this. So today's topic is about why tracking your food is so important to get into a healthier weight. And you know, when I see patients in the office the first day, one of the things I tell them is, or two of the things I tell them is, people who track do better, and people who plan do better. So tracking means tracking your food. I mean, also tracking your steps, but we try to focus on the food first because, you know, as we've said, there are a lot of 80-20 rules in weight management, and one of them is 80% of weight loss is diet and 20% of it is physical activity. We need and want that 20%, but we try to work on the diet first. And so tracking your food is important and planning is important. And what do I mean by planning? Well, planning means that you plan, like you go to the store and get the foods that you need in order to succeed. And so when patients tell me that, oh, I ate this, I ate that, oh, I ate this, the question is, well, how did it get in your house? And of course, they brought it in their house. And so it's important to plan. So when you go to the grocery store, you plan and you get the foods and the snacks and the things that are going to work well for you, that's going to help you succeed. And one thing about that I want to make sure I mention early is that don't ever go to the grocery store hungry. Like, make sure you eat something before you go to the grocery store, because what happens is if you're hungry, you're going to grab some of the things off the shelf that you know you shouldn't be grabbing. So that's what planning is about. So people who plan do better, and people who track do better. And so it's important that you do both. But today I want to talk mostly about tracking. And so tracking your food is vitally important. Why is it important? Well, for a lot of reasons. But one is, you need to know what you're putting in your mouth in order for you to know why or why not your weight hasn't changed the way you wanted it to. And we do, as you know, a low carb diet in this program. And so we don't really care about calories too much. There are certain times when we do, but in general, we don't really care about calories too much. We care about your carbs. And so it's important to know how many carbs that you are ingesting. And it's also important to find your number. And so the only way you can find your number is by tracking. And so hashtag what's your carb number? So what's your carb number? And what's your carb number? Well, the only way you're going to know it is if you track. So for instance, my carb number is 70. So as long as I keep my carbs below 70, I will predictably lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. Your carb number might be 80 or 90, or maybe, unfortunately, some people's might be 50. So hashtag what's your carb number is important. And the way you find out, and we talk about this in detail in the book, about how you find it, you need to track. Because once you start tracking, then you'll figure out what your carb number is. In the book, we try to tell people to start with a carb number of less than 75, and then track your food and see if you're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week. And if you are, then you confirm it after, like you do that for 2 weeks, and then afterwards you confirm it the next 2 weeks. And if you're still losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, then you found your carb number. And your carb number is your carb number for life, barring any changes in your physical activity, hormone changes, these kinds of things. Your carb number is your carb number for life. And that's the one thing about the NGW plan, is that everybody doesn't have to get down to a keto range, or less than 50, or if you do net carbs, less than 20. Everyone has their own carb number. That's why we do the hashtag what's your carb number, and so you can find out what other people's carb numbers are. And so the only way to do that is to track. And the other reason that tracking is important is because it helps you to stay mindful. Even, some of my patients will say, well, I tracked on my good days, but I didn't track on my bad days. And I want you to track every day, whether it's good or bad. One is because this is a no judgment zone. We start wherever you are and we take it from there. As you know, I always say, obesity is not your fault. This is not a willpower disease. This is physiology at work, your body trying to maintain your set point. So it's important for us to know, and for you to know, how many carbs you're eating, because that definitely will help you be mindful. It'll help you be accountable, whether it's to me in the program or yourself if you're not in the program. So tracking is important. And the other reason that it's important is because the way a low carb plan works, like I said, we'll use my number as an example. If your carb number is less than 70, like mine, when you're below 70, you will lose weight. When you get to 70, it turns off like a light switch. Literally like a light switch. And so you could be doing 75 grams of carbs, and you're like, well, why am I not losing weight? I'm doing, carbs that are pretty low, but it could be just because you're 5 grams of carbs above whatever your carb number is, why it shut off. And so that's the reason it's important to know where you are. I mean, the only other way to do it without tracking is to go way below your carb number. So to go keto. So if you go that low, you really wouldn't have to track as much, because you'd be eating a meat like a fish, like salmon or some other fish, or chicken, turkey, beef, or pork, and a veggie. And that would be your main go-to. And then you would have low-carb snacks in between. And so I guess you could not track if you did that. But the whole reason for finding your carb number is to allow you to have a little bit more flexibility in some of the things that you enjoy. But you do need to stay below your carb number, because, again, once you get to your carb number, my number 70, once I get to 70, it shuts off like a light switch. And then and just, it could be a 5 carb difference. It literally could be a condiment, a ketchup packet that you were adding every day that made the difference. Or it could be, that you ate a little bit more of the nuts that you like or the fruit that you like, and you went over by your carb number 5 or 10 grams of carbs. And so that's why it's important. And some people, I mean, it literally is just putting in your food into a tracker. So the tracker that we normally recommend is, like a MyFitnessPal or Lose It. And when my app comes out, the No Guesswork app, it'll be even easier to do that. And that had a hiccup, but it should be out in the next couple of, like, next month or two. And it makes it very easy. I tried to develop the app so that it is seamless. It's no guesswork. I mean, that's the theme for this whole movement, is to make sure that we can make this as easy and as simple as possible and as healthy as possible for you to get to a healthier weight. And so the tracking is important. And I tell people all the time, try to track right before you eat. Put that salmon in, put those Brussels sprouts in, put the drink in, like anything you put in your mouth. A drink, piece of candy, which hopefully you're not eating a bunch of candy, but anything you put in your mouth, you put in the app. If you don't, if you're a little older and you don't, you're not savvy with the apps, then write it in a notebook. And you can get the numbers pretty much everywhere. And if you can't write it down right away, take a picture of your meal. It's one click. And then add the food in later. It's so important to track. That is going to keep you focused. It's going to keep you in line. And even the days you do bad, like the days you might go off the rails, it will be really helpful. Like, wow, did I really eat 200 grams of carbs a day? Or did I really eat 300 grams of carbs a day? And it will make you check back and go, you know what? I gotta be careful. And you will be able to analyze and say, well, the reason today was such a bad day was because, well, I had a burger with the bun, and next time I'm gonna do the burger without the bun. And I had the rice, and you know what? I could swap that out with cauliflower rice. Or you can I went over 10 grams of carbs, and all I had to do was switch this for that. So then it helps you, get a strategy as to what what you need to do. And you'll realize that, it was only 5 grams that I had to swap out. It wasn't that big of a deal. And it didn't change anything that I, wanted to eat, or, I still enjoyed my meal. And so tracking is necessary. I won't even call it a necessary evil, because it's not evil. Tracking is good. It is helpful. It is something that you need to do until you get the hang of it. What I like to call is, like, people who are really good at this, a carbologist. And so, I'll like, for me, I know the carb numbers of different foods, like, at the top of my head. I know you get a medium-sized banana, that's about 35 grams of carbs. The apple is 25. The egg is only 1. So once you become a carbologist, then you can maybe do it in your head, as long as you stay below. But you need to start tracking in order. You need to know what it is, because the other thing is that a lot of people don't even realize that they're eating a lot of carbs. Like, when you eat, I had a patient today who said, I eat oatmeal every morning, doc. I was like, well, is the oatmeal instant oatmeal? And sure enough, it was instant oatmeal. Instant oatmeal is almost like eating Fruit Loops. It has a lot of carbs in it. And so you would know that if you, looked at the label, the nutritional label, or if you just put it in your app, you would see, like, oh, wow, let me switch over to something else. And so it allows you to strategize and to get and to be able to have better control over what it is that you're doing. And so that is the whole purpose of tracking. And someone asked me, Thomasine, I think, said, would your app show me your carb number? And it will. Like, my app is designed to help you find your carb number. Its whole purpose, the algorithm in the app will lead you to your carb number. But again, it's not out yet. And so I don't want you to wait. It'll be out in a month or two. But I don't want you to wait for that. Right now, I need you to get on, the apps that are out there that you can use to be able to track your food. Because in order to do this thing, especially if you want to lose a decent amount of weight and you want to do the NGW plan, you need to track your carbs. You need to know what the carbs are in the food that you're eating. And that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. And because unless you already know the carb number, unless you can look at a food and say, well, this many carbs, and then you're adding it up in your head. Or the only other way is to go way low, to keto. And so I want you to make sure you track every day, even track on the days you're not doing so well. Like if you're about to put a piece of cake in your mouth, I need you to go ahead and have the courage to put it in the app. Just put it, I just had this cookie. I just had this, because it's funny when I'm in the office, somehow those things never make it into some of my patients' app. And it's really mysterious to me, but you need to put them all in because you'll see like, wow, a bagel has 70 grams of carbs. A bagel. And some people are like, why eat a bagel every single morning? That one bagel is my whole carb number for the day. That's how significant it is. And you wouldn't know that unless, you were putting things in. It has so, and studies show that people who track do better. They're more successful on their weight loss journey. It is a fact. It's just a fact. And so it's important that you if you're serious about getting to a healthier weight, then the least you can do is track. We're not asking you to do any craziness. We just ask you to put your food in that. Take a picture of it if you need to. But that is so important. So much so that I put a sign up in my office that says, before I walk in the room, it says, pull out your app, your tracking app for Dr. Hunt. Because that's the first thing I'm going to ask you. Are you tracking? Because I can't help you if I don't have the data. I need the data in order to, because if you say, I don't know, I'm doing everything right, I'm eating the same. I'm eating the same, I don't know what's going on. Like, what does your app say? Oh, I didn't track this week. So you because we all think we might be doing all the same things, but studies also show that, you forget about that little thing, whatever, a treat that was on the desk in the office. So you forget about all these little things because you're not putting it in the app and you're not being mindful. And so mindfulness is very important. And tracking also helps you be mindful. And so it's important. So if you didn't get the point, today's important message is to track. Because the other thing, we just talked about carbs, but the other thing is that you also need to get your protein up. And I have people who do track, and we find out, lo and behold, that their protein is like super low. It's like 40 or 30 or 50, when in weight loss, your protein, depending on your size, needs to be upwards of 80 to 100 and even sometimes above 100 grams a day. Because if you don't get your protein up, then you will lose muscle. And we don't want to lose muscle. And another 80-20 rule, I said there's a lot of 80-20 rules in weight loss. 80% of weight loss is fat, but 20% of it is muscle. And you want to limit the amount of muscle you lose because we're working on the long game. The end game is maintenance. You got, in the No Guesswork Diet plan, you got phase 1, phase 2, and then maintenance. The most important phase is maintenance. We don't want you to lose weight and then regain it, because the other 80-20 rule is that 80 to 90 actually percent of people who lose weight regain it. And so we don't want you to go through all of this and have to start all over again. And if I can get you to maintain your muscle mass, I can get you to maintain your metabolism, and that will help you not lose weight. So you gotta get your protein up. And protein is super important to help control hunger and cravings. I talk about this a lot in the book as well. It's important. So protein has a lot of good benefits for your weight loss journey. You gotta get your whether you knock back a protein shake, make sure it has 20, preferably 30 grams or more of protein and very little sugar, less than 10 grams of sugar. The ones we recommend only have 5 or 6 grams of sugar. And so it's important that you know how much protein you're eating. And again, you won't know how much protein you're eating or carbs if you're not tracking. And so there's so many more reasons I can give you that why you need to be tracking. But if you're serious about getting to a healthier weight, you need to get serious about tracking. And as you go along, you're going to be pretty good at it. And if your weight loss does stall, let's say you did slow down on the tracking, the first thing you need to think is, let me get back to tracking. Let me figure out why this isn't working the way it had been. Because it's not that you just hit a wall or your body stopped responding. Remember, if you stop losing weight from the NGW plan, there's always a reason. It's not because your body just said, I'm tired of losing weight. No, your body doesn't do that. There's always a physiologic, scientific reason why. Either your physical activity changed, your carb number went up a couple of grams, there's a couple of other things that happened, but there is always a reason. It's not that your body just decided it wanted to take a break. That's not how it works. And so I need you to track, I need you to track, and I need you to track. People who track do better, and people who plan do better. You got a plan, so before you go out to a restaurant, look at the menu. Look at what they have so you won't get there and be frantic and just look at whatever you see the picture of and point to that. You need to have already decided what you're going to eat before you walk into the restaurant. Before you go to the store, grocery store, make sure you knock back a shake or a cheese stick or some other low-carb snack so that you're not hungry and that you're making these decisions based off of your hunger or whatever. So thank you. And that's right, track. And you should track. I need you to track. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you tonight. Like I always say, let everybody know about No Guesswork. Tell them to pick up the book. Tell them to visit the YouTube channels. These are all posted on the YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to start posting it on LinkedIn. And we're going to start doing some more things in the near future. So tell your friends, share the video so we can spread the word. Social media is a powerful platform. So we want everybody to, especially if you have done No Guesswork and you believe in No Guesswork and you know NGW worked for you, then you should let other people know. And then you can start teaching other people, and that will also help you be more accountable, because when you're teaching somebody something, it helps to keep you honest. So thank you again, and I really appreciate all of you guys, and we'll see you next Monday. All right, bye. Bye, everybody.